Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And today we're doing some research about winter sleep, okay? During the winter, of course, some of us sleep longer. I think I sleep longer because the bed is warm and I just don't want to get up on a cold morning. But there does seem to be some research that has been done concerning winter sleep patterns. It seems that people do sleep longer in the winter because it's natural for us to do so.
I haven't thought about it too much, but it makes sense. You know, that's the time when people get colds and the flu. So sleeping a little longer can keep you healthy, get your immune system to be stronger. So we're going to talk about that, guys. We're going to crack the code on winter sleep patterns and see what scientists out there have found through their research. Right now, though, we're going to listen to our lesson.
Do you always have a hard time hauling yourself out of bed on winter mornings? This phenomenon may be backed by science. According to new research, humans may need to sleep more during winter than in summer. Surprisingly, this pattern is observed even in city inhabitants who have frequent exposure to artificial lights. This exposure can suppress the body's production of melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate our sleep-wake cycle by promoting sleep when it's dark. Dieter Kuntz's research team analyzed the sleep patterns of 188 patients living in urban settings. These patients, despite their exposure to artificial light, showed seasonal variations in rapid eye movement, REM sleep. This is the stage of sleep during which we dream and our heart rate speeds up. Compared to June, the participants slept for an hour longer in December with an extra 30 minutes of REM sleep. This finding makes sense to Kuntz, as REM sleep is influenced by our circadian clock, the internal rhythm of bodily functions that follow the sun's light and dark cycle. However, it's important to keep in mind that this study was carried out on patients suffering from disturbed sleeping patterns. If these results are proved to apply to the general population, adjusting our sleep habits with the seasons might be advisable. Rigidly sticking to a consistent bedtime all year round could mean losing out on 1 or 2 hours of much-needed sleep during the winter. Chronic sleep deprivation can lead to serious health problems, such as heart disease and depression. Plus, with infections being more common in winter, sleeping more could help protect us against them. So, an extra dose of sleep during winter might be just what the doctor ordered to keep us healthy and energized.
Welcome back, guys. Let's take a look at what we've got here. If you crack the code or cracking the code, but we talk about cracking the code on, what do you call those? You've got spies who are out there, working for their government and spies on the other side. And sometimes you send out secret messages. They're in code. And if you crack the code, you figure out what's happening or what's going on. So sometimes we'll just use it as kind of a fun way to say we're going to figure something out. We're going to crack the code, or we're cracking the code of winter sleep patterns. You could also say cracking the code on winter sleep patterns. That's also correct. So we're going to look at some research that some scientists have done.
Okay, so we begin our lesson by asking you a question. Do you always have a hard time hauling yourself out of bed on winter mornings? So here we've got the verb to haul, which means to sort of drag yourself out of bed. To haul means to pull something that's very heavy. And in this particular case, it's hard to get yourself out of bed on winter mornings. You have to haul yourself out of bed. You have to force yourself out of bed because you just don't want to get up. As I said, it's usually because I feel kind of cold, but as we're going to find out, it's probably because you're still tired, and during the winter, you actually probably need more sleep.
It's always good to get more sleep, I think. Although I have seen some teenagers spend most of their lives in bed sometimes when they have a break. So too much sleep is bad for you as well, guys. So yeah. If you haul something, you're kind of dragging it with a lot of effort, and we'll often use it if we're saying we're going to go somewhere quickly. You need to haul. You need to, let's haul. That would be American boys especially, let's haul. And it would mean stepping on the gas, going quickly. But it is sometimes very hard to haul yourself out of bed on cold winter mornings when the sun hasn't even arisen. So here's this phenomenon we're talking about. We're calling it a phenomenon because it's kind of, something that happens naturally. And we're not always sure why something happens, so it could be a fact or a situation that you know exists, but sometimes we don't really know what the cause or explanation is, so we'll give it this name, phenomenon. You'll also see in a shorter version of this, and you'll hear people talk about someone who's really gifted, maybe musically or athletically. They'll call him a phenom. And they actually take phenomenon and they just cut off the last part of that word. So it's spelled P-H-E-N-O-M, a phenom. Oh, she's a phenom or he's a phenom. But this is a phenomenon that may be backed by science. There may be a real reason, a good reason, that we can explore further.
Yep, a phenomenon is just something that happens, and this is singular. The plural is phenomena, like typhoons, earthquakes, and hurricanes are all parts of natural phenomena, or all kinds of natural phenomena, I should say. And yes, indeed, this phenomenon is backed by science, and according to new research, humans may need to sleep more during winter than in summer. This is according to some research done by people who do these sorts of things, and surprisingly, this pattern is observed even in city inhabitants who have frequent exposure to artificial lights. So you might expect people who live in the country to need more sleep because I guess they work harder or because it's darker out there in the countryside. But if you live in the city, you also need more sleep, even if you can have artificial lights well into the evening. Most people do not go to bed when the sun goes down. Of course, people stay up for 4 or 5 hours after that, even up to midnight. And of course, if we want to stay up at night, we need artificial lights.
Yeah, we actually use artificial light more frequently than we do the plural form. So artificial light is non-count, and it just encompasses all the different kinds of light that is not natural. Maybe you have a candle, maybe you have electricity in your house, maybe you have a flashlight that is powered with batteries. Those are all types of artificial light. So this exposure can suppress the body's production of something called melatonin, which is a really important thing we found out even more recently through COVID, that if you have enough melatonin, it can help reduce the inflammation in your body. So pay attention here, guys. It's not just good for increasing your sleep. Now, if you suppress something, you kind of prevent something from coming out, or you hold something back. Maybe you're putting an end to something, so you want to suppress it. Maybe you're in a very serious class with a very serious teacher, and you want to laugh because you and your friend are kind of passing notes, but you need to suppress that laughter or you're going to get in trouble. So here, this exposure to artificial light can suppress or hold back or end the body's production of melatonin, which is a hormone. And we've discovered this hormone is really important for all of us. It turns out kids have a lot of melatonin in their bodies. And as we get older, we don't have as much.
Right, so we need this hormone. It's like a chemical that your body produces from various glands, and it helps regulate our sleep-wake cycle by promoting sleep when it's dark. So to regulate just means to control something. A lot of people would think that, hey, the government needs to regulate the railways, for example. They should not be owned by private companies, but they should be regulated or controlled by the government. And in this particular case, this hormone helps regulate or control our sleep-wake cycle because it lets us know when it's dark and when it's light. Okay, now Dieter Kuntz's research team analyzed the sleep patterns of 188 patients living in urban settings or urban areas. They could be living in big cities like Berlin or Paris or Taipei, Hong Kong or whatever.
Sure.
And it could also include the suburbs as well. And yes, they analyzed the sleep patterns of these patients. So if you analyze something, you collect data, you collect information, and then you take a look at it and you try to look for patterns and you try to make some conclusions based on that information.
Right. Now, these patients, despite their exposure to artificial light, notice we're using the non-count version here, showed seasonal variations in rapid eye movement sleep. You likely won't hear Americans say, oh, my rapid eye movement sleep was very minimal last night. I didn't get enough. We'll always say REM. Always. So REM is actually the name of a band.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't always say REM if you're referring to the band.
They're no longer around, though, guys, so don't worry about that. So if you're talking about that sleep, that's when you have your best dreams. And actually, REM sleep is very important because that's when your brain kind of puts things back in order so that your memory is better. So if you're not getting enough REM sleep, you're probably having some difficulties with your memory. So for older people, we definitely want the REM sleep. We're going to talk about variations, though, here first. Seasonal variations. A variation is just little changes, little differences in whatever you're talking about. In my apartment, which I have painted a couple of times, there are slight or very small variations in the color of the paint that I was able to buy. So it kind of bugs me. But you can have variations in lots of things. Variations in your sleep patterns. It's good to have variations in the way you exercise. If you do the same thing every day, your body gets used to it. And so it doesn't get it, it needs to stress itself out a little bit as you exercise to really matter. So variations, these are seasonal variations, meaning summer, fall, winter, spring. The way we sleep is slightly different. There are just small changes in our rapid eye movement during different seasons.
Yeah, there are regional variations in how American English is spoken. In the north, for example, people in Minnesota talk slightly differently from the way people in California speak, even though it's all considered the same basic form of English. But yes, there are variations, slight changes, and again, we do have seasonal variations with REM sleep, which we'll talk some more about in just a second. But let's take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师。今天讲解的是寒假合刊 Unit6-1 the Code of Winter Sleep Patterns。这是一份篇章结构的练习题，介绍的是睡眠。现在在台湾，因为是冬天，天气比较寒冷，大家有没有发现，在早上要起床特别困难？这篇文章告诉我们，冬天早上比较难早起，或许是自然的生理现象，对身体健康可能有好处。以后听众朋友如果遇到别人说，你怎么那么贪睡啊？你就可以义正辞严的回答，冬天睡晚一点有益身体健康啊。好，那我们就一起来解题吧。在开始解题前，老师想跟大家强调答题前一定要先看一下4个选项，在心中预留下一些印象，用哪些句子可以让文章变得更完整，甚至粗略的把4个选项排序，因为有些选项句子本身可以提供线索，让我们大概知道这个文章可以把这些句子呢放在文章的前中后哪个部分。那此外，篇章结构最重要的就是回填的句子要和前后文连贯，在文意上要做到承先启后，请大家谨记前后连贯，文意通顺，这8字真言。好，我们一起看第一题。文章一开头是个问句，请问你在冬天的早上是不是总觉得起床相当困难？这个现象是有科学根据的。根据最新研究，人类在冬天需要的睡眠时间比夏天还长。接着就是我们第一题的题干，我们先看空格后面的句子。这样的接触会抑制身体分泌褪黑激素，这种荷尔蒙会调节我们睡眠清醒的周期，在昏暗的时候会让我们比较容易入睡。我们有2个解题方式，后面的句子一开头就是 This exposure， 其实是一个很好的线索。一般而言会说这种什么什么，前一个句子就会先提到 这个是什么？所以填入空格里的句子如果有 exposure， 就很有可能是正确的选项。选项 D 里面提到 City inhabitants have frequent exposure to artificial lights， 应该就是正确答案。此外，前一句说明研究发现人们在冬天所需的睡眠时间可能比夏天长。下一句就接着补充和研究相关的科学知识，可以推测空格也陈述和这个研究相关的资讯。选项 D 以 this pattern 这样的模式为主词，承接空格上一句提到的研究发现，指出即便是都市居民，因为经常接触到人工光源，就算不是夏天比较长时间的日照，也可以观察到这样的现象。所以第一题正确答案选 D。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our research unit, and we're cracking the code of winter sleep patterns. So we're trying to figure out what it is about winter that makes us kind of have a hard time getting out of bed, especially in the morning when it's cold, and you know you have to go to school or you have to go to work, and maybe you don't like your boss. It's kind of hard to get out of bed. I like the winter a lot, so this is never a problem for me. But it is what we're calling a phenomenon that's backed by science. There's data we can look at to explain why this is true.
Exactly. So again, we've got seasonal variations in REM sleep, and this again is the stage of sleep during which we dream, and our heart rate also speeds up during REM sleep. It's important. You need to have lots of REM sleep in order to be healthy. And compared to the month of June, the participants slept for an hour longer in December with an extra 30 minutes of REM sleep. So again, they analyzed the sleep patterns of 188 patients, and they compared their sleep patterns and how much they slept. And so they made a comparison between December and June. June, again, is in the summer, and December is in the winter. And it turns out that these people slept for an hour longer in December, and that gave them an extra 30 minutes of REM sleep. So that seems to be a natural pattern for people, according to this research.
That's a lot of extra sleep. I don't fluctuate that much between summer and winter. A whole extra hour? That's kind of crazy. But this is what they found. They were studying, 188 patients who lived in cities. And so they were really focused on this group of people. This could be different based on different patients. But we need more science and we need more studies to come to some conclusions. Now, remember, Dieter Koontz is our scientist, and he's got a research team, and they're the ones who are doing the research. And he thought that the finding that people sleep an hour longer in December with an extra 30 minutes of REM, which is excellent, I must say, he thought it made sense because REM sleep, he said, is influenced by our circadian clock. Circadian looks like it's really a hard word, tough word. It's just our biorhythm, what happens within that 24 hours. And it usually always refers to waking and sleeping. Circadian clock. We hear it a lot when we fly overseas or fly long distance, where kind of messes up your whole circadian cycle or your circadian clock. I've heard circadian cycle as well. And that's the internal rhythm of your bodily functions that follow the sun's light and dark cycle. So yeah, based on whether it's light or dark outside, it will affect our body's desire to sleep or to stay awake. I know when I have to fly long distances and I'm so tired, I've probably been up 24 hours, I don't sleep on planes, that they always say, hey, if you arrive in the morning, make sure you don't go to bed. Stay up, force yourself. It's really hard that day. So I try to fly in and make sure I arrive at my destination in the evening so I can go to sleep. So bodily functions, we usually use bodily functions to talk about things that are not usually discussed in polite company. Things bodily functions are usually going to the bathroom and things like that. But we do use it, especially when we talk about research.
Like bodily waste, for example, your pee and your poop. Those are examples of your bodily waste. But here we're talking about our bodily functions that follows the light of the sun and darkness and stuff like that. Maybe even when you look at the moon, who knows? But yes, indeed, circadian just means a circle during the day, a daily cycle. And of course, that's what gets you up in the morning, what makes you feel tired at night. So you want to go to bed. You get the idea. Now, moving on now to the third and final paragraph for today. It says, however, it's important to keep in mind that this study was carried out on patients suffering from disturbed sleeping patterns. So that's important there. It's an important distinction. It wasn't carried out on regular people. It was carried out or conducted on patients who have disturbed sleeping patterns. They don't sleep normally like other people do. Maybe they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't get back to sleep, or they feel like sleeping in the middle of the day for 2 or 3 hours. So yes, indeed, they have disturbed or irregular sleeping patterns.
Yeah, there is a condition called insomnia, 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 which just means you're having trouble sleeping. I think a lot of people have insomnia now. And as you get older, you're going to find out that you're going to have more and more insomnia. That's why you see old people out at, 5 a.m. in the morning walking. They just don't sleep well. So these were the type of people that Kunz's research team was analyzing or studying. However, it says it's important to remember that, because if these results are proved to apply to the general population, here it just means we're taking the results from a group that already have problems sleeping, and we're trying to apply the findings to everybody else who sleeps normally for the most part. Then adjusting our sleep habits with the seasons might be advisable. If something's advisable, it's good advice. It's something good that you perhaps should try.
Exactly. So you should do some research or take some or do some observations on yourself and see exactly how much sleep you need and whether you're getting enough or whether you're getting too much. I think most people are probably not getting enough sleep. But again, this survey was conducted on patients who had disturbed sleeping patterns. But we want to wait for this to apply to the general population, to regular folks as well. And rigidly sticking to a consistent bedtime all year round could mean losing out on 1 to 2 hours of much-needed sleep during the winter. In other words, if you have a rigid schedule, it's fixed, it's not flexible, it doesn't change. If you rigidly stick to that bedtime pattern, I'm going to go to bed at 11 o'clock every night no matter what, and I'm going to get up at 6 in the morning every night no matter what. So if you're too rigid, if you're too strict, then you might miss out on some extra sleep during the winter because it's much needed according to this research, and it could be due to evolution, and it could actually be bad for your health if you don't give yourself that extra hour of sleep during the winter.
If someone's rigid, which is the adjective form, this is an adverb, of course, it just means they're not really willing to change their behavior. They want to stick with what they've done before. This is actually contradictory advice to sleep doctors who tell you to have a very consistent bedtime and stick with that, because it's better to have a pattern that your body gets used to. So, but I think this is saying if you have some extra time, see if your body wants to sleep longer. I think that's always interesting. I usually, it doesn't matter if I set my alarm, my body gets up regardless of what time I want to sleep into. I want to sleep in some days and I can't. So I have to go to bed earlier because I know my body's just going to get up early. So chronic sleep deprivation can lead to serious health problems. Chronic means ongoing. If you have a chronic health problem like asthma or allergies, it's going to be with you likely for the rest of your life. So you just kind of have to deal with it. Deprivation means there's something you're not getting that's pretty essential, and we'll often use it with sleep. So sleep deprivation, you're not getting enough sleep that you need. And if you're not getting enough sleep, this causes a lot of problems. It leads to higher blood pressure, heart issues, diabetes. All of these things are very important. So you need to be checking out your sleep. Sleep is really essential.
Indeed, put that phone down and try to get some sleep. And plus, with infections being more common in winter, sleeping more could help protect us against them. So yes, it's easier to get sick during the winter because of infections from bacteria or from viruses or whatever. So yes, if you sleep more, you can be healthier. So an extra dose of sleep, an extra amount of sleep during winter might be just what the doctor ordered to keep us healthy and energized. We do say that, hey, it's just what the doctor ordered. That's the exact solution to your problem. And yes, indeed, we want to be energized. In other words, we want to have lots of energy to go out and work during the day and make a ton of money. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
接着请看第二题。第二题在第二段。第二段开头提到，研究团队分析了188位受试者的睡眠形态，这些都是都会居民。虽然这些患者有接触到人工光照，快速动眼睡眠当中还是有季节变化。我们在看到空格后面的句子，和6月相比，实验的受试者在12月份的时候睡眠时间多了1个钟头，其中 REM 睡眠还多了30分钟。选项 B 以 this 来当作主词，代替的就是空格上一句所提到的 REM 睡眠。说明呢，这就是我们做梦还有心率加快的睡眠阶段，为后面的句子提供了背景知识。那文意呢，也是前后连贯的，所以第二题我们就选 B。再来，后面接着第三题，前文提到，然而我们必须记得，这研究的受试者有睡眠问题，而后一句则说，如果一整年上床时间都一致，上床睡觉的时间都一致，冬天的时候就会少睡1-2个钟头。选项 C 这个部分针对前一句提出假设，研究结果如果也适用于一般民众的话，代表我们根据季节调整睡眠习惯是有好处的。下一句接着说明不随季节调整睡眠的坏处，这样看来前后文意是连贯通顺的，所以第三题选 C。最后，请同学看到第4题。前一句提到长期睡眠不足会导致严重的健康问题，比方说心脏病还有忧郁症。后一句提到，所以冬天的时候多睡一点，可能刚好也是医生给大家的建议，好让我们可以保持健康有活力。我们可以推测空格的部分可能继续点出睡眠不足的坏处，或者呢多睡觉的好处，所以第4题选 A plus with infections being more common in winter, sleeping more could help protect us against them. 此外，就这个选项的意思是说，此外，冬季传染病呢更加的普遍，多睡觉可能有助于保护我们免受感染。这意思就是，那你多睡觉了嘛，在外面接触到这些不同的病毒、细菌的机会就减少了，那当然就比较不容易生病了。好，以上是我们对这篇篇章结构练习题所做的中文讲解。老师希望同学透过练习，对答题技巧会更加的熟悉。好，谢谢大家，我们下次再见。
That's it, guys. We hope you learned a little bit more about sleep, and we wish you all a lot more sleep. We want everyone out there to be healthy. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
I'm tired. I'm going to get some sleep.
Me too.
I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Good night.